So you have had such an amazing career. So you've been part of not only Pirates of the Caribbean, but now you're on Once Upon a Time. You've also been in like Seinfeld, Star Trek, and Friends. Do you have a preference? Do you like doing TV better than movies?
No. I mean, I think there is one thing about television that's fantastic. It's like, it's got to move too fast, so you can't be too precious about the work.
Right.
Whereas in film, sometimes you can be in a scene for weeks and weeks in a big action sequence. Like maybe you don't have that much to do, or you're like in Pirates, we have a lot of times we can be like very wet. So you're just damp for like 4 months.
Were those just uncomfortable shoots?
The shoes were uncomfortable. The shoe was gross. I had the worst shoes. I had like these high heels. They would drive me nuts, and my ankles, it was handmade for my foot, but by 2 years in, they were all floppy. So I'm like walking on the side of the heel, and I'm trying to run in a coconut grove and sword fight like 12 dudes.
In high heels.
Suffering for your art in high heels. I'm like, where does it say that a pirate wears heels? What is this? Give me some Nikes, a swoosh pirate shoe. Something with a good grippy sole.
Fashion is painful.
Fashion apparently is painful, especially when you're learning. Well, I had the corset. I wore a corset in Pirates. And I have so much respect for people because I did one scene in a corset, and then 5 months later when I gained like 5 or 10 pounds, I was back in the same corset. So at the end of that day, I'm rowing a boat in a corset, I take it off, and it's burned my ribs.
Like an imprint.
Yeah, like a tiger. Shocking stripes.
All right, I want to get to the fans because this is Fan Fest. It's all about you guys. Let's go to our first question.
Hello.
Hi.
What was your favorite episode of Once Upon a Time to film?
Dreamy. The episode where I told my backstory. Not only because they let me carry the ball, but I got to kiss Amy Acker, which is always probably one of the great pleasures on this earth. And also to realize that, Grumpy is grumpy because his heart was broken. That's something I could get behind. Because I would never treat, when you have that, if your character has a surly attitude, you want it to come from somewhere genuine. And coming from a broken heart, there's probably no more genuine place that could come from. Because then it's accepted, from the rest of the characters. Oh yeah, he had a hot girlfriend that dumped him, We can understand why he's a little upset. That was living with 6 dudes in a hovel.
Yeah, I'd be a little grumpy too.
Yeah, they gave me permission to leave and I come back. It's like reverse Odd Couple. Felix Under's back or whatever. Now, I think I have to say Storybrooke, because I don't have to wear the nose and the ears. I mean, I don't mind that, but anytime, sitting in the makeup chair, and when you wear a prosthetic appliance, that means that someone's going to chase you all day and poke you in the face for like 12 hours. So I think I prefer being in Storybrooke, but I actually, just to be honest, I don't care, because I love doing the show. And wherever they want to put me, I'm happy to be there. It's one of the great opportunities, as an actor, is to play the multiple roles that you get challenged with on that show. And so whatever I'll have to do to make it come through, I'm okay with that. But I would say Storybrooke. Thanks, man.
So which is worse, 12 hours of heels or 12 hours of grumpy makeup?
The heels. Because what you can do is when you wear the makeup, you can mentally adjust. The hardest part, literally, is the touch-up. It's you're wearing a nose, and they're going to come over you 20 times and like poke the corner of your nose with a stick.
At least you'll get grumpy.
Yeah. Well, it's high-definition cameras, too. Right. So you gotta understand with the high def, those edges really pop.
Right.
So you want it to look good. That's the other thing with Star Trek. When I did the Star Trek makeups, that's 4.5 hours in the chair, and someone chasing you all day, and they glued your eyelids and your lips together. So you're like this.
It's like Clockwork
Yeah,
Orange.
you're totally stuck.
Hi, have you heard anything about being in Pirates 5?
Well, I heard that I'm not in it.
Alright, well, I'm just making sure.
I'm not happy about it. You can quote me on that. It's very disappointing to me, but I guess I understand it's a business decision for them.
Yeah, we don't wish that you guys were still in it.
I hope that, you know what, I hope that movie is a huge success and they make another one and then we're back.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Mackenzie has other shows that he's doing, I obviously have once. So I mean, there's ways to justify why we're not in it, but those characters were so much fun to play.
They left you guys in a bottle, so
Yeah.
you're happy to
Peter, I guess I'm still in the bottle. I'm drinking. Drinking my way to P6, I hope.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys were kind of like the R2 and 3PO of the Pirates.
I mean, exactly who we were. It's exactly what we did. And, you know, you have that kind of same kind of commentary where, you know, the way that R2 and C3PO were like, what's happening? Oh, I think that Leia's upset because of blah, blah, blah. And then we did doing it for Jack Sparrow.
Yeah,
It's very Shakespearean.
The chorus, yeah, very much so.
Yeah, on the right side, this thing can't turn you off.
Oh, what do you mean? They can kill you off. They just say that you're dead. So that's, you know, Hollywood, it's like, oh, it's just one edit on final draft. You're dead. No, you know what though? Let me tell you something. Those movies were fantastic to be involved in. That was an opportunity of a lifetime. Then people go, what was that experience like? I'm like, well, let's say I lived in the Caribbean for 2 years. I take a speedboat to work and I hang with Keira Knightley all day. It wasn't too bad for me, you know? For a little kid from Santa Monica.
My favorite role of yours is in the classic Rocky movie of my generation, The Wizard.
Oh, The
Ninja
Wizard.
Guy.
Oh, yeah. Ninja Gaiden!
Did you get to play any of the NES games they had there?
No. I mean, in fact, we only shot outside. Like, we were on the Universal back lot. So we used the front, I think it's the same building that's the courthouse in Back to the Future. And we just, used those columns. And so as soon as like the guys went inside the door, it was cut and scene. That's a wrap, see you tomorrow. But I mean, what a great movie, and one of the great things about this business is that you never know. I mean, The Wizard I worked on for one day in the 90s, and you know, it's a favorite for someone, and that's really a thrill for me, so I appreciate it.
Just to remember that line. It's just-
I yell very well. I got some big pipes. And for me, when I was 18 years old, I went to UCLA, and one of my classmates there was Richard Olivier, son of Laurence Olivier. So, as an 18-year-old, I'm performing for Laurence Olivier. And at the end of the show, I go to lunch with him. And this is me as the fan, going to Laurence Olivier going, oh, I'm just meeting him. He's my buddy's dad. Richard directed the show. And I'm like, oh, Sir Lawrence, nervous. Like how people come up to my table and start crying and hyperventilating. That was me. And he just looks at me and he goes, call me Larry. You know what I mean? He's like, I was like, what, Sir Lawrence? Call me Larry. Larry's my name. All right, Larry. I mean, so he demysticized it for me. He told me that like the only way to really be successful in this business is be yourself. Always treat people how you want to be treated, and always respect your audience, because they ultimately, you're going to live at the beach thanks to them, you know? They make you in this business, and that's why an event like this is kind of cool to be a part of, because, you know, it's not a joke. That's why I never understand why actors would come to these shows and not have that attitude, because it's ridiculous. You know, here's people waiting in line to take a picture with you. It's a pretty magical experience, you know?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are fortunately out of time. Lee Arenberg, thanks everybody. Go to his booth, check him out. Comments. Go to his booth, check him out. He is awesome. Thank you so much. All right, guys.